What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Prop for Magic, your trusted resource for all things prop firms related. Today, we're joined by Jared Tendler. He's a leading expert in how your mental game impacts the way you perform. He has clients from PGA tours all the way to championship poker players and even hundreds of institutional and independent traders. He's also the author of 3 books, The Mental Game of Poker 1 and 2, and The Mental Game of Trading. So Jared, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Manuel. Great to be here.
By the way, we're also going to be giving away a 5K account in this video, so make sure you stay till the very end so you can find out how to enter this giveaway.
When it comes to trading psychology, a lot of people wonder if trading psychology really is the only thing that keeps traders from becoming profitable. Today, we have Jared Tendler here to break it down for us. So Jared, take it away for us. Is this really the thing that really prevents traders from being profitable or being successful in trading?
I would never say it was the thing. I mean, you have to have an edge in trading. And so when I have a prospective client come to me and it's not clear to me that they're a seasoned trader that's profitable, I always ask them, do you believe that you have an edge, that your inability to manage your emotions is what's impairing your ability to exercise that edge and become profitable? Because if you don't have that edge, I can't give that to you. And so for a lot of traders in the prop firm space who are still new, I say, like, you know, you're in this game for less than 6 months, you can work on your psychology. But you're going to look and examine the issues that you've experienced in other performance environments, whether they be educational, sports related, performing arts related, in work, doing presentations. If you've had issues in other areas of your life where anger and fear and overconfidence and greed have become problematic, then you can damn well bet they will show up here as well. But you're not going to really work on your trading performance issues yet because you're too new yet. You don't have an edge developed. We need to understand where your psychology is limiting your ability to exercise that edge and or where your psychology can enhance it. And those are things that you have to have the technical side of trading firmly established first in order to define kind of where those are. Anybody that says that trading is 100% psychology does not understand psychology or trading. You have to have an edge. There's a reason why the Dalai Lama is not a good golfer. The mind is not everything. You have to have raw skill and talent and ability.
That's amazing. That's I'm hearing this perspective. You know, I've heard it a little bit before, but the way you're going in depth is very, very interesting. You also mentioned tilt. Tilt is something that a lot of traders experience, but sometimes don't even know. They're not aware that they're going through that. Can you talk a little bit about tilt and how it affects the performance of a trader?
Yeah, so tilt is another word for anger. It's a word that actually comes from poker, where you're tilted at the table. In other words, you're getting angry and just making a lot of bad decisions. When traders tilt, it means that their emotions have risen to a level that the part of the brain that's responsible for thinking, making decisions, planning has now been reduced to a level where mistakes are effectively inevitable. The emotional system has the power to override those higher brain functions, including, there's one other one that I didn't mention, the ability to control your emotions. So this is a sadistic way the brain is wired. The part of the brain responsible for controlling emotion can be shut down by intense emotion. So when you're tilted, when you're experiencing a lot of fear, or when you're experiencing overconfidence and euphoria and elation, you're going to be limited in your ability to think and your ability to control that very emotion. So you have to be able to recognize the escalation of that emotion to be able to properly control, manage those situations. Now, what happens with traders who are trying to get funded? I mean, it runs the gamut. They'll freak out as soon as they take one loss. They'll get close to getting funded, and then the panic takes over. And then that one loss then spirals them downwards. Or they'll take a couple paper cuts and then revenge trading clicks in. And now they steamroll into what I like to call the fuckets. Like, well, lost 40%. I'm just going to blow this account. I might as well, go all in and see if I can capture a big win. If you're going to stop any of those problems from happening, you have to catch the warning signs early and be aggressive then when you still retain the ability to think and the ability to control your emotions. Otherwise, the mistakes and your inability to control your emotions is inevitable. You do not have control at that point because the brain prevents you from being able to do so.
Wow. Yeah. Very real. Very real. You went in depth with that. And it just hearing you say that kind of helps me. You know, we always look back and say, I wish I knew this when I was younger or when I started and things like that. And hearing you talk, it's almost like you're just replaying mentally what you go through, all the steps. And like you said, they're inevitable. As traders, you're going to meet it. One of the things you also mentioned that is a very common thing was revenge trading and losing streaks. Let's start with losing streaks. How does a trader actively, or what steps can they take to kind of break out of this cycle? Because as you may be aware, sometimes a losing streak is not necessarily the strategy itself. Sometimes it's psychological. Is there anything we can do to help us come out of those streaks?
Yeah, I would first and foremost just take a day off. When you're caught in a cycle, it feels like the only way to really break out is to win again. But I would argue that in that moment, you're gambling, not even just with your capital, you're gambling with your mentality, because you're basically saying I'm not capable of digging my way out unless I get lucky and win. Because you do have to get lucky to some degree, because the probability is not 100%. There has to be something in your favor. Otherwise, so a day off just to lower the temperature, to start to analyze what was going wrong, identify more of the patterning that existed within your emotions so you can maybe catch them earlier, maybe explore like what's causing them and see if you can come up with some answers. But also, importantly, find out how well you were actually executing the strategy. My guess is there probably is some cleanup that can be done. And so when you come back from that day off, you're focused on making improvements on both sides of the coin, right? Tactically and mentally. And if you can't do that because your emotions are too hot, then you got to pull yourself. I mean, the difference between trading and most other performance environments is that we are surrounded by people, maybe a coach, maybe a teacher, a boss, like somebody is there to help us. You have to be a good coach for yourself. And if you're putting yourself in compromised position, you can actually really injure yourself. I mean, injure your psyche, injure your capital, and you don't want to start to create these cycles and snowballs where you're not able to properly problem solve. We're all going to run into the limitations of what we're capable of, like many, many times. And when you do that, when you hit the wall and you fail, you examine what went wrong, you examine what you did well, you learn, you retool, and you adjust. And then there ought to be some progression. I think what ends up happening with a lot of traders who are trying to get funded is they're so driven to get funded and to get that first payout that they are kind of gambling with the whole process rather than really being focused on developing skill. And that ain't sexy. It's not like all the glory and, you know, what sells on Instagram and everywhere else. Like, the hard work is not sexy. Although, you know, some would argue that David Goggins, you know, the Navy SEAL wrote that book, you know, Can't Hurt Me, has made, you know, pain and suffering sexy. So, I mean, there are people in trading who I know do this really well, but the vast majority, I think, are looking for like a lottery ticket to just make a bunch of money quickly. They're looking for a way out of a situation that they're not happy in. And the odds of success are much greater when you can find ways to create incremental growth. And then you create the conditions for a real breakthrough that you can sustain. I see it so often. Traders who are trying to get funded never think about what comes after they get funded or become successful. They don't think about the skills required to keep making progress, to keep the money you earn. Mike Tyson fought a big match the other day because he was broke for like the 9th time. So just because you have a bunch of money doesn't mean you can keep it. Just because you make money today, think about what comes next. And skill is the most likely predictor of future success.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to traders trying to get funded or trying to revenge trade and things like that, there are also, and this is just from experience, there are also some traders who say things like, I did the work to get there, everything was good, but as soon as I got funded, I started experiencing what they call, I guess, performance anxiety. Where do you think the switch comes from? Like, what's the difference between when they're going through the challenge and then when they finally get funded?
Well, I think what happens when traders get funded is now it's real. You know, the challenge is, I paid, you know, 130 bucks, 25 bucks, whatever it was to enter this challenge, maybe get funded. And it's like a game. Now you're funded. Now it's real. And now all of your goals, all of your aspirations are on the line. Now there's added pressure on the precision in your execution, which puts pressure on your skill set. When you have like hardwired skills that will show up under any circumstance, you know, if I threw a bike in your room and said, here, you know, go for a ride, my guess is you'd hop on without any questions, right? That kind of instinctual knowledge only comes through lots of repetition, right? It took you a while, but it's also not a complicated task. Trading, like, how long is it going to take you to be able to have the basic elements of your strategy so internalized that if I woke you up at 2:30 in the morning and said, how do you make money? You could do it like that. It takes a while to establish that. So once you get funded, there's pressure on those parts of your skill set that aren't fully formed yet, right? It's like, you know, an infant now is, or a toddler that's barely learning to walk is now told, hey, go for a run and make sure you don't fall. So yeah, you'd feel more pressure when you kind of have to be perfect in order to make sure that you keep making progress. So all that pressure is legitimate and it's okay. Where it becomes problematic when you start to think it's causal. Because I feel this way, that means there's something wrong. That means something bad is about to happen. And that's not true at all. Because pressure can be a great tool to help bring out your best. And when we think about, you know, elite performance, it is the catalyst to helping people be at their best. You have to have the right perspective on that, on that pressure, on that fear.
Okay. So listening to you speak, it reminds me of a lot of traders asking the question of, or having the expectation of how long it's supposed to take them to finally get this, right? Like, oh, someone got consistent or funded in 6 months. Others did in a year. Some did in 3 weeks. In your experience, how long on average does it? I know everybody's different, but on average, what have you seen to be the time frame as to when people can finally, from beginning to end, make that switch to becoming a profitable, consistent trader?
You can be profitable in 6 months, but I don't think you would. I don't think you can be called a trader yet. I think you can. It's just too new. I don't think anybody listening to this would hire a lawyer that had been in practice for 6 months. Would be really comfortable going to a surgeon that, again, forget the residency part of it, where they're 10 years at a resident, like they're just out of med school for 6 months. You want them doing surgery on you? I don't think so. So, like, these are enterprises. These are skills that require time, repetition, rehearse. You can't get around that. Can you be profitable? Absolutely. Right. I mean, anybody can be on the top end of the variance side of things. Like, you can get a little bit lucky and have things go in your favor, and also be lucky to have found good mentors and good resources, and be semi-resourceful yourself, and have enough capital, where there's not external pressures, and, not have family depending on you. And there's like variables that, can come into play here that can be in your favor to be able to make the jump fairly quickly. But I'd say in general, to become a skilled trader that is capable of going through different market cycles, which is another variable here too, and proven to have an edge in different market cycles, or know that they have the ability to recognize when they don't have an edge and sit the F out until they do, 2 to 3 years. I mean, this is not an overnight success. That's like general kind of early time frame.
Wow. So I'm again, for those who are listening, I hope you guys are understanding that overnight success is not as common as people make it seem. We're here with an expert who has seen it all. And 2 to 3 years is on average, right? And again, everybody's journey is different. I would like to ask you before we wrap up here, because I know your time is very precious. You have other things to do. What are some of the key things you want people watching this to take away from this video? And what would you, I guess, as your final words of wisdom, what would you impart them with before you go?
Just be honest about your motivation. Are you here truly to try to make money quickly? And if you are, then you've got to pivot. And if you're not, and you're willing to do the hard work, then it doesn't have to be hard. It just has to be brought with diligence, with consistency, with real effort, and an understanding that it's going to take some time to really incubate, the skills and develop them the right way. But you have to be, in my mind, aiming at becoming a skilled trader who is capable of wielding an edge and generating profit, not somebody who is coming in trying to make money, because that is, I think, a recipe for getting caught in a gambling cycle. And even if you are able to make incredible sums of money, there's no indication that you're going to be able to keep it. And that's the more important thing.
Wonderful. Jared, thank you so much for your time. Where can the people find you if they want to maybe contact you or hit you up on any of your socials? Where can they find you?
Yeah, jaredtendler.com is my website. Loosely still active on X or Twitter at Jared Tendler. But my website, I've got a blog I keep up regularly. I've got free worksheets, the ones I mentioned, to help traders utilize my book and kind of do the work in a bit more of an organized fashion. And I also have a coaching and mentoring accountability program called the Mental Game of Trading Live, which there's more information on my website on that.
Awesome.
All right, so as promised from the beginning of the video, we're giving away a free 5K account, and here's what you need to do to enter today's giveaway. You have to like the video and subscribe and comment this specific thing. Jared mentioned in the video that tilt is another word for something else. What was that word? Comment that in the comment section below, and you might just be the lucky winner of the 5K account giveaway.
Jared, once again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate having you here.
Absolutely. Great to see you.
Thank you. And for everybody else watching, you're here to hear first from an expert in the trading psychology field about what it really means to have the psychological game mastered. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.